Boo Carter.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
This is a story I'm hoping is not true. What the H today brought to you by our good friends at National Fitness Center. Unmatched value, limitless options. Begin your fitness journey today. Did he really negotiate to play more offense into his NIL contract? Are we serious about this? Did this really happen?
So this was a story that came out basically. So when you were off, Dave, it all happened real fast. So let me just break down what happened last week, because this is why I think they were forced into the portal. I wrote that Stephen Hargis of the Chattanooga Times-Free Press, who, by the way, is an amazing reporter. We had him on our show last year, and he basically was the one against all the rumors of Boo Carter going to Colorado. He's like, not happening. He's going to Tennessee. Stephen Hargis is very close with Boo Carter's family. He reported it. Stephen Hargis came out last week and said when Boo Carter was negotiating, it was not about NIL, because there were rumors that he was transferring. And he said, it's not about NIL. It's not about money. It's about his role with the team. And then On3 came out, which is less reliable, but when you combine it with Stephen Hargis, you can put it together, and said that he wanted to play more offense and he wanted to be a Travis Hunter type, basically. So we already addressed, I asked the question Monday if we think that's what pushed Squirrel White into the portal, because if Boo Carter plays offense, Squirrel White's touches are going to collapse. But
I don't know that. I mean, if you look at how now Travis Hunter's different, but if you look how Deion Sanders was used in the NFL, it was at most 10 or 12 plays a game. So that wouldn't knock any Tennessee receiver out of the running at all. But I think you could play Boo Carter for 10 or 12 plays a game and it wouldn't affect Squirrel White that much. Squirrel White is the really befuddling one. The shoulder, and then his stance on transferring is now, I mean, is he definitely out the door, or where's he?
Yeah, it sounds like he's definitely out the door. There's debates about Mike Matthews, but I'd be shocked if he comes back. I don't think it's
wait. Your pronoun usage. You'd be shocked if White comes back, not shocked if Matthews comes back.
Yes, I'd be shocked if Matthews comes back. But White, I'm sorry, I'd be shocked if White comes back. But Matthews, they say, could come back. But I'm not so sure Matthews will either. The point I'm getting at with this is I don't think it's 10 or 12 touches for Boo Carter. I think it's a regular every down back at receiver.
Okay.
And an every down back at defensive back.
Okay, that's where I thought you might go to. If they go to there and he's negotiating that, you need to tell him 2 bats on hit bricks. You cannot, in the middle of an NIL contract, negotiate playing time, playing position, any of that stuff. If you want to negotiate money is not stupid. If you want to negotiate money, if you want to negotiate stupid stuff like, I don't know, your parents get 4 parking passes instead of 2, or you wear number 6 instead of number 93, I'm fine with all that. But when it comes to affecting the football field, I got a real problem with that. And Caleb, your take, brought to you by Work Trucks, all about trucks. Trucks are actually available. Trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle available now. Time is money. The perfect work truck doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is until an offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Time with less back and forth trips. Get that man a throat lozenge. And trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app how to work bodies installed. They've got it all. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need them. WorkTrucksLLC.com. WorkTrucksLLC.com. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. So this would be basically like me calling Work Trucks and say, I have my little Audi S5, and I would like it to be utilized as a tow truck. I mean, that's what Boo Carter's doing. He's demanding how he gets used. I've seen it. Business is business. If you want to use leverage of potentially going into the transfer portal, heading into the college football playoff, that's not what I would do. I would not encourage my son to do that, but I understand the leverage. Leverage, but that's for more money potentially. But the leverage to play a different position absolutely turns my stomach.
not to play a different position, to play both positions.
Right. But, even if a guy came and said, like I look at Rashad Baker, Rashad Baker was called the most fluid receiver that Philip Fulmer had ever seen by him. And then he came out the next day and got moved to defensive back. He struggled at LSU, if you remember, and that was the Hurricane game, wasn't it?
No. That was back in 2000.
Okay,
and Rohan Davis just absolutely gave him hell.
Yes. Okay. So, what if Rashad Baker had gone back to them and said, I hate playing safety. In my NIL contract, I want to go back to receiver, and I'm not playing safety anymore. But you had him plan to be your safety for the next 3 years.
Okay,
now,
let me ask you this.
How do you not have him hit bricks?
How about this? You covered Jason Allen, and in 2004, they moved him to free safety because they were short there. And Jason Allen said, I am only coming back for my senior season if you put me at cornerback. Did you have a problem with that?
I had a big problem with that. I had a problem with Jason Allen's attitude for much of that season. What did he play in the pros?
I think did they move him to safety in the pros? Or
he didn't play corner. He didn't. He had the physical ability to be a really good safety. I don't know that he ever had the physical ability to be an elite corner. Who are some other guys who've made demands? It didn't work out. I don't know that the Leak family made a demand, but they certainly pulled Chris when CJ lost his job in Georgia. That's not a demand, but that's kind of a retroactive demand. Does this stuff ever
okay,
work?
but what about this? What about at the NFL level when Albert Haynes was signed with Washington and he had a demand that he play in a 4-3 and he was upset that he was lied to, that they switched to a 3-4 where he was going to be more of a nose tackle? I
had a real problem with that, and I talked to Albert about that. Did you know he showed up to, what was the head coach's name? Oh, Shanahan. Yeah,
Shanahan?
He showed up to Shanahan's office first meeting, and Shanahan said, if you have 10 sacks, that means you're ripping up the field, and I don't want that. I just want you to take on 2 or 3 blockers. If you have 10 sacks, you've had a bad year.
Yeah, so you're saying but did you have a problem with Washington or Albert?
I had a problem with Washington lying to him, telling him they were going to do a 4-3, and then went back to the 3-4. And
well, see, that's what I think happened with Boo Carter. My understanding is I think that Boo Carter was told by the coaching staff that he would play both sides when they recruited him to keep him out of Colorado. And I think because that's what Colorado was promising him when he was on the recruiting trail.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you something that's interesting then is, I've covered recruiting for a lot of years, and these recruiting promises are going to have to change because they'll call you on it. You used to have them for 5 years, Caleb. You could say, Boo, you'll play receiver and never do it. And he's stuck in that old archaic scholarship contract. So you can't do that nowadays. He'll come to you and say, bye-bye. And he could go to Colorado tomorrow and, maybe be the next Travis Hunter. I don't know. I think he's special talent-wise. I really do.
With that, if that's the case, does Boo Carter have a point? Does Boo Carter say, look, you guys promised me this? He didn't ask for more money. That's the crazy part. According to Stephen Hargis, he did not care for a dime more money.
Okay, but here's my issue. Let's say, just for instance, Tennessee, I don't know, had a freshman quarterback, and they had a lot of injuries, and they had to kind of slap this thing together with duct tape. Caleb, what if that happens next year? Is Boo going to be mad again because they didn't have time in practice to work him into the rotation? Is he going to up and transfer again, or is he going to negotiate for even more offensive playing time? Where does this stop?
Let's ask this, though. Let's talk purely X's and O's. Are we sure that Boo Carter doesn't also have a point because of how good he could be on offense? Dave, you saw him on punt returns.
I am totally not arguing the fact that he should play offense. I'm all for that. I'm all for being innovative. I got no problem with that whatsoever.
So with that in mind.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was going to say, with that in mind, I'm thinking that as I say this out loud, look, I'm sorry, but I think he was told he was going to play both sides, and that was to keep him away from Colorado. I think he was then told I think he then saw how the slot receiver struggled this year. Squirrel White was banged up the whole year, and he didn't even get a look. He was so much more effective with the ball in his hands. If you look at him on punt returns, I look at all of that and I'm like, throw him out on offense. By the way, for the slot receiver, and we know this with Jalen Hyatt, there's not a lot of complex route running. You don't have to learn a lot of routes.
No.
in that offense.
Bender
So,
String said the only way to fix this is to drop the entire student athlete facade, just make them employees. I got no problem with that. I've thought about writing a book one time. It was because it's called Getting Your Kid a Football Scholarship for Dummies. And the 5th chapter, literally, I've kind of jotted down a rough outline, was your son is not going to play on both sides of the ball. I mean, there are probably 100 kids that are promised that, Caleb, that signed because they're highly touted. And only one really did it last year. And I can only name a handful, Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, that have done it at a high level or consistently. Just 5th chapter, your son is not going to play both sides of the ball.
yeah, you see, I see you would do that. I would write one on your son is not going to be the leading scorer on his NBA team. Because I think
On
there's a
his
lot
NBA
of
team.
Well, because I think there's a lot of NBA players who flame out because they can't accept the fact that they're asked to be role players when their whole life they were the best player on their team wherever they went. And
Well,
it's hard
agreed,
to
but
adjust.
I was going to talk about football specifically.
I know.
I mean, it is just the other one. The 6th chapter was going to be your son is not going to be a 2-sport athlete. They might tell him he can run track. They might tell him he can be like Julius Peppers and play basketball. But the chances are he will not. But with the special, listen, I hate specialization, and you'll have to make these decisions as young Quincy, who's like 6 months old now.
Going on 7 this week.
That's awesome. All right, so young Quincy, 7 months old. You'll have to make this decision. Let's say he's really good at one sport and not as good at the other. Well, the question is, do you specialize in one, or do you create an all-around good athlete with good competitive spirit playing different sports? You'll have to make that decision, but I don't think there's a decision to be made by college. You should definitely be specializing by then.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you're going to be an athlete, you should be specializing, and the good coaches will tell you that too. That of like this is where you need to put your focus. I think that that's kind of the issue with. Look, we can talk about this. It's funny because he's at Colorado. Deion Sanders just ruined it for everybody, didn't he? Because he was a 2-sport athlete who also played both sides of the ball in football. So just everybody wanted to do that. But I got to be honest, with somebody like Boo Carter, given what we just talked about with the receiving core, Dave, I can't look at Boo Carter and say, God, he would be so good on offense. Because you know what really hurt Tennessee this year? The bubble screens didn't work the way they were supposed to. I bet they would have worked if Boo Carter called him.
Oh, that's a good point. Instead of a Brew McCoy who didn't have the explosiveness because of the ankle injury, I believe. And if you look at Tennessee's receiving core last year, just offensive tackle has to be the number one problem, right?
Oh, definitely.
Where do receivers rank?
Okay, so offensive tackles are the number one problem.
I think second.
Second? Yeah, second.
Did you ever thought we would have said that with, Dante Thornton and all the guys that they've got? And they had their moments, but it just wasn't what I don't think anybody expected. Expected a lot more out of that. Hey, listen, I'm all for Boo Carter.